you guys hiring? And she got me an interview, and I started here, and there was a huge contrast in working here versus my previous employer. Like, I felt like they cared that I was here, and they were, investing in my success, and I was having more responsibility. And so echoing everything Megan just said, I think we have a really strong, culture of employee development, and, also, we care about our people, and we want them to have a career here if that's what they want to do, from start to finish.
Have you ever wondered how successful architecture, engineering, and construction companies scale their business?
Or have you ever wanted guidance on how to get more growth, wealth, and freedom from your AEC company?
Well, then you're in luck. Hi, I'm Will Forat.
And I'm Justin Nagel, and we're your podcast hosts.
We interview successful AEC business leaders to learn how they use people, process, and technology to scale their businesses.
So sit back and get ready to learn from the industry's best. This is Building Scale.
Hey listeners, it's Will here. Our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy. If you've ever listened to our show, then you know that the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology. So if you suspect technology is your weak link, then book a call with us to see where we can help maximize your company's IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
Today's guests are 2 principals at Aria Group, a leading architectural firm specializing in hospitality design, Chris Hamer and Megan Walsh. Chris is the president of the firm and specializes in hospitality design, focusing on restaurants, hotels, and entertainment venues. Some key projects include Topo Lobamo, a renowned Chicago restaurant by Chef Rick Bayless, as well as Tortazo, a fast casual eatery also by Rick Bayless. Multiple Dave & Buster's throughout the U.S. and Nordstrom restaurants and E-Bar. Megan Walsh is the Chief Business Development Officer at Aria. She is an expert in fostering strong client relationships and collaborative project leadership, and focuses on delivering dynamic and functional spaces for the hospitality sector. Some of her projects include Verdad, a Mexican restaurant in Austin, Matter Bio Wellness Club, Bar Sotano, a speakeasy-style mezcal bar in Chicago, and Perry's Steakhouse and Grill. Aria Group recent accolades include Interior Design's Best of Year Awards in 2024, recognized for excellence in design, Architects Newspaper AN Awards honorable mention for the Loom Project, and Building Design and Construction's top 175 architecture firms in 23, ranked 104 nationally. And with all that said, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Justin. My ears are burning. I don't know about you, Megan.
Thanks so much, Justin.
I'm getting better at intros. Like, we're about 125 episodes in. I'm getting better at it, where I can cut things down. But when you do a ton of awesome stuff, it's not always easy to just like cut it at certain spots. So I hope I did it justice, but would love to hear from you two, both of your origin stories, how you got into the space, and then as well as why Aria is so awesome.
Sure. So from me, my origin story is, when I was a kid, my dad had a business. He founded Hamer Guitars in the 1970s, and his job was selling guitars to rock stars, and I was fully on board with that when I was a kid. I was ready to travel the world and meet all the cool people. And then through a dispute with his partners, he ended up leaving the business, and I needed a new job. So we moved to Oak Park, Illinois, where our firm actually is located in the 90s, and my dad took me to the Frank Lloyd Wright Home and Studio. And seeing that, I was like, this seems pretty cool. After that, we kind of traveled around and did summer vacations around architecture, and I fell in love and decided to go to school for it.
That's one beautiful. I played music all my life. My dream job is to be a lead singer in a rock band. So like, I'm all in on your
we should get together
travel the world. Yeah, I play drums. So if you play guitar, hopefully maybe this will totally work out for us.
Great.
What about you, Megan?
Mine's not quite as glamorous as Chris. So as a kid, I was always really creative. So always drawing, painting, doing something creative. Not a Lincoln Log or Lego fan. I was more of a fan of being able to build in different directions, like not stuck in a box, essentially, not stuck with linear. So Tinker Toys was my building choice of my selection. And my really close friend from growing up, her mom was an interior designer. And so I started getting interested in the industry through interior design and through seeing what she did. So at first I wanted to be an interior designer, and then I kind of kept flipping back and forth between architecture and interiors. And ultimately now I get to do both. So I'm very excited that I get to have that creative outlet on both sides of the design and architecture side of the industry. I went to school for architecture at Wash U in St. Louis. And ironically, whenever I was at school, we did a class trip up to Chicago and visited Unity Temple, which is actually right behind our office. So I didn't know that I was going to end up spending so much of my career in Oak Park. So kind of ironic. I started in the residential side of the world side right out of school, but one of my good friends was working at Aria and was like, "You really should come here. It's really fun." I was really interested in the hospitality design side of the industry and how creative you get to be. And so that's what pulled me over to Aria. And I've been here for a total of 17 years with a gap of 5 years in there because we moved to California for a while for my husband's job. But I really loved the management style of Aria, came back to Aria whenever we moved back to Chicago.
That boomerang effect. That usually means that there's a good culture. So let's start there. Why go back to the same firm? What drew you? Said, hey, I need to be back here. It's super important.
Yeah. The biggest thing is the people, and our team is really down to earth and a close knit group overall. So I would say that's one part. And connected to people too is it's very like team focused mindset, both internally and then externally, how we work with contractors and engineers always, and clients, always putting the team focus on our work. So I would say that's one of the other components. And then a third component is how we really empower our more junior team members within our office too, and really, are working on building them up, helping them grow in their career. So I think, especially as a younger team member, that style of management and that style of helping you grow within the firm, it was really, really interesting to me. So one of the, all those things definitely came together to bring me back.
Yeah, for me, after school, I went to work for, sort of medium-sized Chicago firm that, it's a pretty recognizable name in the city. And I worked on the same project for 3 years. And when that project wrapped up, they were kind of like, see you later, a dot-com bust era. And so a friend of mine went to work for Aria, and I said, hey, are you guys hiring? And she got me an interview, and I started here. And there was a huge contrast in working here versus my previous employer. Like, I felt like they cared that I was here, and they were, investing in my success, and I was having more responsibility. And so echoing everything Megan just said, I think we have a really strong, culture of employee development. And, also, we care about our people, and we want them to have a career here if that's what they want to do, from start to finish.
So the reason why both of you are on the show is we want to explore something that we haven't talked about on the show. It isn't talked about in school, in architecture school. It's not talked about in engineering school, yet it's such a big piece of essentially what it is to be part of an architectural firm. And that's becoming a partner or becoming a shareholder, right? And the path towards that. So can you talk a little bit about what your path looked like? Did you even, at the time when you had joined Aria, did you even consider that was an option? And if so, why go after it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, starting, as a 24-year-old kid, it wasn't really something that was on my radar, but it was something over time that I became aware of, and just sort of seemed like the next logical step in my career. So started talking to the founders about it, saying that I was interested in it. And we have one objective criteria, and that's time spent at the firm. We look for someone to be here 10 years before being eligible for ownership. And then there's a bunch of subjective criteria in terms of client satisfaction and project success and leadership and things like that. So, but, something we talked about. And when it was offered, like, I had no idea what I was getting into. And, I think we kind of learned on our way. Megan, I'll let you tell your story now.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily focused on it when I first joined the firm, but definitely kind of similar to Chris, like over time realizing, okay, what would be the progression of my career in the future here? And so talking to the principal that led our team about the potential there. And I think I've always been interested in either like helping to lead a firm or like owning my own firm. Just that interested in the like entrepreneurial side of the industry. So, and being able to kind of craft the path of a firm too is really interesting.
You each kind of took a different path around how to get there, but from the founder's position, why would they decide that they want to cut a piece of their own pie, right? Because that's really what happens, and allow for someone else to come in and be part of, really, shareholder, partially equity owner. Why would they want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two reasons, really. One is, they at some point have to transition, and having additional shareholders is a vehicle for transitioning the business. And the other is that the whole is greater than, with adding more people, that's you make a commitment to a shareholder that, we believe in you and the business is going to be greater with you in it. So, you grow the pie, so to speak. And then, even though your slice of the pie may be slightly smaller, if the pie grows, there's more pie for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think also, just in general, the founders that really, focused on, continuing the future of the business too. And really, one of the things that makes us successful is our like longevity with like client relationships too. So I think, continuing that relationship with clients and continuing to help our clients grow, that's like what makes us successful in general too. So they've been really good about, continuing to like pass on the like leadership of and, connection with those clients to the rest of us as principals and, throughout our team. And so I think that is also just the future of the company and kind of that positive of how to help us succeed in the future has been really important too.
So what, becoming an owner, becoming a shareholder, partner, that sounds amazing. Like the sound of that sounds like rainbows and unicorns, and this is going to be the greatest thing ever. But like, what's the other side of that? Not everything's all that it's cracked up to be. Not to say that it's like a bad decision, but like, where maybe the misconceptions? Like, what are misconceptions that maybe you had or you think people have when they decide, hey, I'm gonna sign this partnership agreement?
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it was, this sounds great. Where do I sign? And then we went to a celebratory dinner, and on the way home, I was getting a ride from the founder of the firm, and he said, "Oh, by the way, we're a subchapter S corporation." I'm like, "What's that? I don't know what that is." And so that means that we pay the taxes for the company, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And but by the way, we'll work with our accountant, and all of this was just like, stepping into it via, almost like a shotgun blast to the face. Like, I went home and Googled, like, what's an S corp and what is pass-through tax and what does all this mean? So, I mean, it's been a huge learning curve. I think that's something we've tried to address with subsequent, generations of owners. Just like, hey, we just want you to, here's what this means. Here's how everything's structured. I mean, I think just the business aspect was just was a surprise for sure.
Yeah, I think I was because I was like 2 shareholders later than Chris, I believe. So I had the benefit of more kind of preparation, more explanation, but it's still surprising, once you get to like the tax component of what you're working with, like things that you don't have an experience before, seeing, all sides of the business, having that opened up, and especially coming into this role without a business minor or anything. I think that's that is, quite shocking, so much to learn, but at the same time, also really exciting. Like you get to, touch and experience all different sides of the business. You're not interacting with all of it. You're usually focused on one side of the business, but, very interesting, so much to learn and grow at throughout your career.
Well, so there's a lot to unpack here, right? Because essentially sounds great. It has definitely a lot of benefits. However, the experience, and for anyone out there, right, that's considering to become a partner, probably needs to be a little educated on what that really means. So, how would you, and even before becoming a shareholder, like talk about, let's say, difference between partner and shareholder, right? Is there a difference? At what point can you become a shareholder? And what is, we'll call it moving up the ladder, what does that really mean? And additionally, what do you wish you had known before taking that leap?
Yeah, taking the last question first, I think, the firm can have good years and the firm can have bad years, right? And COVID was a huge shock to us. We design restaurants and entertainment facilities, and that was not a popular business to be in 2020 and most of 2021. Thankfully, it did come roaring back, but in the down years, you're kind of first in line to take the hit, and that's how it should be. And then as far as moving up, I think I wish I could say we could have we had all the answers there. I think that's something we're trying to figure out. For us, for our firm right now, we had an immediate need for a leadership transition because our founders were looking to retire. That was a 2-year process, just trying to plan and figure out who's going to be in what position. And, we used consulting to help, multiple consultants to help us with that. And I think the next challenge starts now on how we're going to transition, the next tranche of the company for our partners who are looking to retire in the next 10 years.
So, becoming a shareholder makes you have responsibilities that is very different from not being a shareholder. It's a very different set of responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily, and it's not really part of the job description, right? Yet the responsibilities are there. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, the unwritten stuff, right? Stuff that's not in the job description?
Sure. I think one is a responsibility to grow the firm. That falls more heavily on shareholders than it does for the rest of the rank and file. Another would be, there's definitely a leadership component. We look at our shareholders as the leaders and future leaders of the firm. So, that's something we, talk to our people about. And, a lot of our shareholders are leading teams, either larger teams or just, multiple project teams. And they are, they hold key client relationships like Megan mentioned. Megan, anything to add on your end?
Yeah, I think another big part that, we've been focusing on more in the last few years is strategic planning and, learning more about that. Each of us have stepped to focus on a specific area of strategic planning. Client strategies is what I focus on. Others focusing on financial and growth, operations, people strategies. So, that's learning more about strategic planning and how to plan for not just the next year, but for 5 years, 10 years, and working together to craft that plan, on top of the day-to-day of everything else that you're working on. So, which has been, really fun, but also is challenging. It's hard, architecture and design is a very, fast, very busy business. We're working really hard. We've got a lot going on. So making progress on, the strategic planning has been something that, sometimes we struggle with. It's, how can we move things forward and still get everything else done, keep our clients happy, keep our teams happy. So, I think that has been, a learning curve, and, I think we're getting better at it, but excited for us to, continue to grow in that.
And just real quick, we do ask our shareholders to kind of slot into one of those, or sometimes multiple, but one
Yeah.
of those strategic areas of the business to help Megan on marketing or someone else on operations.
Is that, you mentioned using consultants for different aspects. Is this a piece where you use consultants? So like at Spot, right? We're on EOS, right? So we have an implementer comes in. Literally, I'll be in Chicago in January for our annual session, that second week or first week of January. Like we're on a 90-day schedule of like, hey, we are going to every 90 days we're going to get together as a leadership team and work on the business, right? Not in the business, on the business. So is there a structure that you're using, or are you using a consultant, or are you just building it as you go, as they say?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, we did bring in a consultant to help with strategic planning, and we put together a strategic plan book document that we've referenced over the last couple of years. Kind of fell by the wayside for a year. We all got together this year to refresh it. So we had 2 days of meetings, and we're looking to push it forward that way organically this year. You mentioned EOS. I'm intrigued by that. A number of businesses in my Vistage group run off that, and they have nothing but good things to say. So that could be something that's in the future.
Okay. Well, Dan, shout out to Dan Zawacki. He's our implementer. He's awesome. I'll make sure that I let him know we mentioned him during the episode. But we can't speak highly enough about EOS. It's, and I think it's about having structure, right? It's about having some form of structure. Like we've not used like Scaling Up or The Great Game of Business, similar concepts. But like the idea is if you have a structure, it's a lot easier to push to the things you want, right? And that's just in life.
Yeah.
I know, Chris, earlier you said that maybe it was too early to talk about philosophy, right? But like that's true. It's in life. If you are more structured, you have more freedom and you get more things that you want.
And I think that structure that the consultant we worked with on the first one, like really helped us kind of reframe how we do it for like future years. So Chris was our fearless leader for this year's strategic planning. But yeah, we have at other times we have brought in other consultants to like moderate on it and help us think outside the box too, because that, making sure that we don't just focus on the same things. We're thinking big picture about the building the business is really important.
Have you gone to school or taken classes on, we'll call it on strategy? This is the stuff that's not necessarily talked about in your normal technically most ARCIs are 5 years in the 5-year course, right? In college or whatnot. Is this talked about at all? Or where can they learn this?
Yeah.
More strategic.
I think there's, I don't know if there's any specific book that has helped me in terms of research, but I think it's something that I would tell my younger self. I wish I had gotten a business, minor or something, at least, especially, so many architecture firms are small businesses, so there's so many people leading a business once, they get into the work world. And so that would definitely be something that I would wish I had done. And in the meantime, we're like learning from the consultants instead and reading what we can on that topic and everything about business in general, I would say.
Yeah, for me, I joined Vistage in January, and it's been a huge learning experience for me, just learning from other business owners on how, the challenges they're facing, their strategies, and, seeing their success has just been incredible. And I would recommend it to.
Yeah. And for me, another thing that has helped is just podcasts in general. So podcasts like yours and others about business and all facets of business, I think is really helpful, especially because a podcast is more current, similar to like Chris's experience at Vistage. Whereas like if you're reading a book, that is probably a year ago that was written. So especially with, just the business world changing so quickly and economy changing so quickly, having more current information from a podcast or, a magazine article is really helpful too.
That's a good point. Growing your business in 2018 was very different than growing your business in 2020, right? Like some of those concepts would have just totally been, that's not going to work at all, right?
Yeah.
And obviously that's a very dramatic example because of COVID, but that doesn't change the fact that we are evolving in the business world.
Yeah. And that even impacts us from like a design and architecture standpoint too. Like just the consumer is changing so much too. So, businesses are becoming more complex and more savvy. So, all sides of it are impacted, with focusing on something more current versus, a few years ago.
So strategy, obviously learning about it, important. Staying current, super important. Last piece on the strategy part before we move on to a little bit of a related topic. What about strategy? And if you could talk about it, maybe even, in personal experience, what is it about strategy that's so important, yet isn't really learned about, let's say in school, but you're learning through really the school of hard knocks, right? What is so important about it, and what have you learned so far from it?
Yeah, I think, our firm's story was, in 2021, we brought on some consulting to help us with the transition. And part of that strategic planning meeting was about benchmarking our firm's performance to the industry. So it was, eye-opening to see where we were doing well and where we were falling short. It triggered a thought process in all of us to see, okay, what changes can we make immediately to move the needle in the direction we need to go? And then it's been a process over the last 2 years to see if that's worked or not. And I'm happy to say it has. I mean, the firm's growing, and everything that we saw in the business that was lagging behind is moving towards, where we wanted it to go. So, and, it also gives you a lens to talk to your employees about. We like to have an all-firm meeting at least once a year where we tell everyone what's going on, what the plan is, what everyone's working on. And, so we get to share that strategy, all the thought that's gone into ways to improve the business. We get to share that with our people. They get on board, and good things result from that.
What did that succession planning look like? Or what did the strategy look like for you guys?
Yeah, so specifically for us, we saw, the one thing in particular was our utilization rate was really high. Consultants said this should be a giant red flag for you guys. This is the check engine light blinking that, it's working, but it'll be a lot easier for you if you actually reduce your utilization rate. I mean, it's like, how does that make sense? But it does make sense. We were overbilling to projects, and they were suffering accordingly, and we were shortchanging the business and, not spending the time we needed to on, improving things internal.
Yeah, we were focusing a little bit more on our business as like a small business in a way, and focusing less on like the actual business. We're a team of 130 people now, but when it was formed, in 1989, there had been no plan in terms of growing really big. So it just has grown over the years, and really grown through our clients' growth overall. So it's interesting now to like really start to focus more on things like marketing, finance, the like HR people component more than we were trying to align more like a medium-sized large firm that we are.
What is, I guess, for listeners, what is the size? Like, how many people are you? What does that look like?
Yeah, so a little over 130, built out of architects, designers, and then our corporate staff too, funding designers too. So, a fully mixed team for a full service firm like ours.
No, it's a very good size firm. You're probably point something % of size when it comes to architecture firms, because generally a lot of them, to your point, are small businesses.
Yeah, and especially because everyone's located here in Oak Park too, outside of Chicago, so that's unique too. A lot of times when a firm gets to our size, they normally have multiple offices, so that's another unique thing as well.
That I assume that's strategically, right? You want to stay in one location. You don't want to open other arms or other offices, or is this a peek into the future?
I think it's a peek into the future. We're kind of busting at the seams in Oak Park, so something's got to give if we continue to grow. I think, we have a very strong culture in our team, of collaboration, and all being in one place really helps that. And we've able to grow a national footprint, despite only having one office location. But I think we're about to outgrow our environs. So there may be some changes coming there.
Got it. Well,
And
I
I
have
think
no.
post-COVID too, we realized like we can work virtually more easily, both with our clients and with our team too. So that it wouldn't necessarily inhibit us from still collaborating, remotely.
For sure. I have no, obviously, eyes into the strategic side, but Arizona is a great place for a second office, just so you're aware.
We have heard that.
We will
Yeah,
consider it.
It's lovely. So I highly recommend it.
So, Megan, for you, since we're talking about strategy a little bit, as a principal that oversees BD and marketing, what does that look like for the future?
In general, the biggest way we've grown over the past has really been through referrals. Since we are such a good team collaborator, referrals through our clients, through the GCs that we work with, and, other partners. The GCs that we work with especially since we are so team focused, we have a different view on collaborating with the contractor. Oftentimes in the past, architects and contractors have butted heads more so. And we really see it as like, let's work together. Like, let's figure out the problem together. We're not going to play the blame game. So in general, I think that has had a big impact overall, in our growth. Since the business has grown through referrals, like we didn't necessarily think about it as referral marketing, but it is like the best kind of marketing. So it's wonderful that whenever you're doing great work, whenever you're great to work with, that's how you grow. So we want to, of course, continue that, but we also have really made a large focus on meeting more people, like expanding our network, going to like more conferences to both learn from what's going on in the industry, but also to like meet more people and build relationships. So, I think because we are a very people-focused team, that has been a large focus from a marketing standpoint. Another thing is also kind of building our brand presence in the industry too. We just launched a brand new website, so excited to have that project completed, and then just are continuing to like build our social media presence, and want to in this next year continue to build other sections of our marketing, direct mail, really engaging our team in building relationships too, and building, continuing to network more. So it's an exciting time and a lot to do from a marketing standpoint.
I think just to touch on a little more on the strategy picture, I think we've kind of realized we're a large firm sustained by a ton of small projects. Mm-hmm. So how can we get into hospitality adjacent or entertainment adjacent industries or verticals to grow our business further? So one of our biggest clients is Topgolf. That's led to some sports projects. Can we amp up the sports aspect of our business? I think we've worked in hotel space for a while, but it's not a huge part of our portfolio. How can we amp that up? So I think that's what we're looking at in the next 5 years as the best avenue for growing our business.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we were doing one thing really well for a long time, and then you start expanding what those other things that you can do really well. It makes sense when you have a client that you do great work for, and then they say, you did great work, let me give you more work, right? That's easy. But how do you go about getting the first job? Like, how do you go about finding the next great chef or the next sporting event? How do you build the Bears or White Sox stadium or, design that stadium when that comes around, right? Like, how do you get to that place to then be able to have reoccurring,
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is by providing great quality and great overall designing great projects, and also having a high level of client service. Then your clients also become the best marketers for you, talking about how you're doing great work and how you're great to work with. So I think that's definitely important. And also marketing that great work too, and getting that out into the industry. Topgolf has been, a major marketing component, and connected us to a lot of people overall. Seeing the great work that team is doing and seeing the great work that client is doing has really brought us into more sides of of the entertainment industry, which has really been helpful for our growth. But in general, I think our team just continuing to do a great job is one of the most important things.
Well, next time you're having a company party, hopefully not January, make sure I'm invited to the Topgolf event. I'm very
better in January than you think it would be.
Really? Well, there you go.
Plenty warm.
It's a lot of heaters.
Yeah.
One thing that we haven't talked about, it's decision-making, sort of partnership, whether or not you have equity. Does it play an effect into making decisions within the company? Or something that we know that happens within architectural and engineering firms is committees. Do you want to talk a little bit about decision-making, whether or not you use committees, how and why you use committees?
Sure. We have committees for various aspects of the business, and that tends to be, more open to any employee who wants to participate. So we do a newsletter quarterly, and that's managed by Megan, but run by our marketing department and various employees in the firm. There's also a wellness committee that puts together events. There's a social committee that also puts together events centered on, our holiday party. And we're having our annual Yankee swap this afternoon. So they're responsible for putting that together. Yeah, ton of fun. So it's a long-standing tradition. At a high level, I think we are organized into our strategic initiatives around people, operations, finance, and BD and them. That I think, we set the strategy together. I think we like to make decisions based around consensus as much as possible. So I think that fosters, an inclusive, collaborative environment.
When it comes to decision making with committees, because it is a way to be more collaborative. What is there a reason why a committee would, let's say, make a decision but then get overridden or kind of vetoed by a partner? If so, why? Or why not?
I don't think it happens very often. If it were to happen, I think either the decision seems to be would result in inefficiency, or put up a roadblock to getting the work done and out the door, or it's just cost that's not in the budget.
Yeah, I think also too, if it might not align with like the bigger strategic goals of that year too, or it might be a great idea, it might be something we definitely want to do at some point, but the timing just might not be right. Like we need to push another strategy forward first before we get to that strategy. So I think that, and also making sure that we're thinking about all parts of it. I think that's where like the collaboration across strategies is helpful too, that we're considering, just marketing, but we're also considering like the financial side and the growth side of the company. So making sure because everything is so interconnected, and that really is something that I think even getting into this as we became principals, we weren't necessarily thinking about how interconnected everything is. And it's something that, we need to continue to be better at, is to kind of see how that we can connect those dots and inform each other's decisions more effectively.
What about at the leadership level? So obviously you have shareholders, 6 of them, I believe, currently, and a board. So how do decisions get made at that level, not necessarily at a community level? Yeah,
so we have 6 principals, and then overall, I think 18 shareholders, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, in general, in our principal meetings, weekly, typically day-to-day decisions, it's more of consensus than anything. So, major decisions, we would vote on those together. But Chris, do you want to speak about it a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the board is responsible for overall strategy and approving that, the direction of the firm overall. I think we are kind of set up on a EOS light model, and as Megan mentioned, we have weekly leadership meetings where we go down what's big picture stuff first, and then we go drill down into each of the strategic initiatives, check in, document the new news, document the decisions, and as much as possible, I think we're trying to make decisions as a group. And I think when that doesn't work out, somebody's got to occasionally make an unpopular decision, and That's usually me. So it doesn't happen very often, though. I think we do a good job of talking things out and coming to consensus. So,
well, if you want to talk EOS, the books behind me, the ones that are in orange, you can kind of tell we're big proponents of EOS. We can talk hours and hours upon that. Not that we can do that right now, but just wanted to put that out there. Unpopular decisions. I just want to ask about that real quick. Why would it be unpopular? And if you can share even a decision or two as to why you had to make those decisions that were unpopular. Why make those unpopular decisions?
well, I think, we use our strategic plan as a guide. And if something doesn't fit that, sometimes we got to say no. I mean, and sometimes it's like, I can't think of any examples right now of an unpopular decision I had to make. Maybe Megan can, but
I actually can't at the moment.
So few and far between then.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think, and then another component of it is, just even how do we share that decision? Like sharing the reasoning, like being as clear and transparent as possible is really important, both with our shareholder team as well as, the full office. So I think no matter what, like it's still a business. Like we need to make money. Like we're not here to just, create only. So we need to make sure, and especially as we're learning in our roles, that us focusing on like the finances even more, especially at the beginning, has been really important, both to prove to the board that we can do that, but also we're learning and we want to make sure that we continue to grow the company and don't make a misstep in any way.
Actually, I can talk quickly about a personal failure, and that was definitely an unpopular decision. And that wasn't communicated well, that I think we've owned up to. So we have annual performance reviews, and we were tying salary increases to those performance reviews, and they were happening at more or less around the employee's anniversary date every year. So we had salary updates every billing period. We have 130 people. It was complete chaos on the project planning side, because everybody's billable rates were updating many times throughout the year. It was really difficult for our project managers to stay on top of the plans. So we made the decision to separate out salary reviews from performance reviews. We were going to do performance reviews throughout the year, salary reviews at one time throughout the year. And we looked at this year as a transition year. So we let everyone know on a quarterly basis that we were going to do salary reviews until we got to the end of the year. And then next year, all salary reviews happen at once. And I did a very bad job of communicating that to the staff. And I think, there were definitely some people out there who felt that there were nefarious reasons for why we were doing this. So, we got the feedback that it was unpopular. I owned up, hey, I need to do a better job communicating this to the staff. And I received some subsequent feedback that everyone appreciated, us owning up to a mistake, an area where we fell short. And I think that, being vulnerable, can buy you a lot of goodwill when you kind of step on your own toes.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the concept of culture and like, how do you keep it going, right? You both came to Aria because friends told you about it, which is always a good sign. That means good things are happening, but that they cared. Like they showed you that they cared. So like, how are you intentionally making sure that that's still top of mind now that you're leading?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just communication, at every, we just had a holiday party, and the part of the reason for the venue was it's an important historical project for the firm. We're celebrating the founders as they exit the company. And my way of celebrating that to the staff was to talk about how times that I made mistakes with each of the three of them that, they ultimately forgave. So it's about building a culture where people feel okay making mistakes. We don't want people hiding it. Our thing with our clients and our people is that we're going to own up and we're going to take responsibility. I think so. That's just an example of how we try to do that and how we try to communicate, our culture.
Is that?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think, also just empowering our team, supporting them in their growth. Like, I think that also goes a long way, as well as creating like team environments where everyone's collaborating together, and is able to build that team camaraderie. And in general, I think hiring practices are important too. Just like hiring, continuing to hire more people that are aligned with our culture, our values. And in general, I think, it helps when we do get friend recommendations. That definitely goes a long way. But, we have a team of really down to earth, hardworking, and creative. And I think, just good people. And I think that goes such a long way. And then if we get to work with good clients too, and good partners, that continues to snowball in a good way and continues to like move our culture forward.
Good people attract good people in all kinds of ways, internally to the firm as well as externally, clients or big fans of yours, right?
Definitely.
So you mentioned core values. Is that something that is documented somewhere that says, hey, these are our core values? It's not just a feeling?
Yeah. That was part of the strategic planning as well, is to like focus on our core values, are creating our mission statement and our vision. And so something that took a long time, when you have a lot of people like working on it together. But overall, I see it as something like, although that we created this could also continue to evolve too and grow as we grow. So definitely exciting to think about how can we bring, now that we have those established, how can we bring those into other parts of our company and like our other parts of our process, and make sure that that's more intentional as well.
Yeah, I like hiring, right? Like this is like for us, right? It's just like we always are hiring on values. Obviously, there needs to be a technical skill. You can't hire me as an architect, even though I think I'd build some cool stuff. I'm just throwing it out there, but that would be a horrible decision, right? Even if I met all the core values, but it is such a huge portion of that. So is that now intertwined into not only the recruiting process, but also hiring and then continued instilling, right? Like you have to, they say you have to keep telling people the same thing over and over again. They say 7 times for anybody to hear anything. So if you don't, like if I don't tell you that I'm candid in spot migration, we're candid. If I don't say candid 4 more times, you'll never remember that we're candid 3 more times.
Yeah.
So is that built into the process now?
I think it is somewhat, but I think it's something that like we'll continue to integrate more. I know Dan, one of the principal that leads the people strategies, is like working on adjusting, continuing to evolve like our job descriptions. And we just started to partner with 15Five, with a company that'll help us with our HR process too. And I think that'll also continue to integrate more ways that we can utilize it too.
Chris, any other add-in to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were strategic with our values and, our mission statement to align across the strategic areas of our business. So, I mean, just really quickly, our core values are deliver, from the big picture to the tiny details, we go above and beyond. I don't have this memorized, so if you can't tell, I'm reading it. Initiative, challenge yourself and innovate to step out of your comfort zone. Community, we strive to enrich our community and the environment through our work, and collaborate. Teamwork and inclusivity are ingrained in our process.
Sure.
And I think there's, that works with our employees just as well as it works with our, our clients and our BD pitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like you're also defining who you like to work with. It's a reflection of not just internal, but also externally. So kind of represents all the way around.
Good core values then, right? Because if it's just some aspirational things that sound great, if we had people like this, that doesn't actually work. So when it's more true to who you are, and then also externally true to those that you're trying to attract, like it just works.
Justin, I think it's time for our last question. What do you think?
I think so. And we have 2, so we'll get double the advice.
Yeah.
All right. Alrighty. Megan, we'll start with you. If you could go back 20 years, what advice would you give yourself?
I think, I mentioned part of my recommendation earlier, which would be getting a business minor. But I think another just kind of more general one, I would, tell myself to slow down a bit and making sure to like enjoy the process of growing within my career and connecting with my team, connecting with clients, something that I'm a hard worker in general. And so I feel like, and I love to take on as much as I can, focusing on not taking on everything and also focusing on it more, engaging more. And you don't always have to worry about getting everything on your to-do list done, making sure that, those times that you're in the office, you're definitely connecting with people and really focusing on the connection with your team. And so still something I'm a work in progress on, but I think that would be one thing.
Yeah, that's
Chris?
great.
Chris, how about you?
For me, I think I would tell myself the same thing I'm telling myself right now, which is, the world is awash in opportunity, and the people who are going to put themselves, and the businesses that are going to put themselves out there and be bold enough to grab that opportunity and take the risks are the ones that are going to succeed. So that's what I'm working on now, and that's what I wish I told myself 20 years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
No, awesome.
Great perspective.
Yeah, this is great. I'm going to put all the social stuff in the show notes. That's not a problem. But for our listeners, if somebody want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say check out the new website that Megan was instrumental in putting together. There's a say hello button. Click that, say hello. We're both happy to talk. If anyone has any questions or, are going through the same struggles we are, let's connect.
And I think also LinkedIn too, also a great option. And especially because then you get a chance to see someone's face whenever they reach out too, and hopefully remember them that way.
Awesome. This has been great. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the people before we say our goodbyes?
I'm good, Megan.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having us on here. Great talking to you and getting to learn more about your company too.
Agreed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Listeners, this has been exceptional. A twofer for you today, which is always fun. And until next time, adios.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to Building Scale. To help us reach even more people, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or on social media.
Remember, the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology.
And our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy.
So if you think your company's technology pillar could use some improvement, book a call with us to see how we can help maximize your IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
And until next time,
Keep building scale.
Scale.